So, Kira, I feel like I've been able to see you a little bit more these days, and I'm so glad that you were game to talk to me on my podcast because I just love what you're doing and I wanted to share it with my audience. So, thanks for coming on. I have a big
Mm.
question to start out with for you.
Ooh. All right, hit me.
Okay. So my podcast this season is about helping people change or helping people get some ideas about how to change and how to commit to change. A lot of times people do like dry January or they're on a diet or they're really trying to have an exercise kick. But I feel like people fall off of that pretty easily. And when I listen to you, and luckily I've been able to actually be a part of what you do that you love and that gives back to you is because you were able to come across the country and end up in the East Coast where I live some of the time and do a concert in my backyard with your music, which was like a magical mystery tour that I got to be on. And luckily, I'm going to be able to have the same thing happen on the West Coast. So I'm super thrilled that I get to see you on both coasts. It's a great thing. But as I get to know you, I also hear how amazing your own journey has been around your own creativity and your own growth. And I just thought you sharing this with people would be just amazing for them also, just to hear your commitment to yourself and your commitment to your art. So, one of the things you said to me was you planted a seed around your commitment to music. And I wondered if you could take us back to that point or me back to that point of how you've done your own change.
Hmm. Yes. Okay, well, I'm just gonna just shoot from the hip on that because what comes to mind when you ask is I I think I have always had the sense that I really wanted to be an artist, that was the most interesting, the most exciting, the kind of like my deepest yearning in life was
Mhm.
to have that, to be that. And it's taken a lot of different shapes over my life. It really, to me as a teenager, I thought it was going to be acting, and I moved to LA to be an actor as a teenager. And that kind of chewed me up and spit me out in a certain way that left me still knowing it wasn't the right form for me, but I knew that what I was after was still in me and real. Um, and so I ended up in North Carolina in a commune of artists. But what came to mind when you asked like planting the seed is that there was I would walk alone in the woods a lot in North Carolina, and I just had kind of a tantrum at some point. I was like up on this red clay, kind
Mhm.
of like part of the mountain, and I was alone. And there was a lot going on in the place that I was that was pretty hard. But I just reconnected with my voice and singing. And I had always been a singer. I sang in choir. I grew up singing. I loved music always, and it was sort of my like co-pilot, even as an actor. But yeah, I came out of that experience, and I felt like that that is the that was the door that felt open for me to walk
Mm.
through to keep becoming an artist, keep trying
Mm.
to become an artist. Yeah.
Mhm. So the tantrum was kind of the point of like I've got to listen to my own voice. I've got to like walk my own walk. I have to um, do things with the in right alignment, like the right kind of people around me, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little more complicated than that because where I was, there was a hierarchy of people and a sort of leader telling me who I was and who I wasn't. And so it was in the face of that, like being told who I was and who I wasn't, that the tantrum came. And it
Yeah.
took me a while to hear it
Yeah.
and to leave and keep moving down the path. But yeah, I would say that was to me a seed planted was that moment of tantrum because I felt so clear like, oh, this is no, this is in me, this is inside me, and I have to do it for myself. And it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't really matter if anyone tells. I think especially as artists, like we always think there's going to be elders that are going to like recognize us and give us the go ahead and say yes, you're on the right track. And and sometimes that does happen, and that's happened to me in
Yeah.
ways throughout my life, but I think it can't really, like, ultimately you have to make that decision for yourself to
Right.
decide, yeah, where you want to go.
Yeah, I think that's true. That I think that all along, part of moving down the path that's authentic to you is finding the people that do, boost you up and believe in you, and you get the, add a girl, go for it, but it still has to be your motivation and your drive and your connection to whatever it is that you want to do. Because society or groups of people tell us like it's impossible, that's not who you are. So
Yeah,
we are kind
yeah,
of busting through those like limited beliefs to get to our what is it that we really believe in about ourselves? Who do we really believe we are?
yeah,
Right? Kind of like that.
yeah, yeah.
So then what happened?
So I mean, so I was in North Carolina. I was at part of that group for 4 years, and we eventually left when I was 24 when I left, and I ended up in a lot of crossroads in motion for several months. I went back to LA. I kind of was like, is my old life back there? It was
Mhm.
not, but there were shades of it, and I started singing right away when I got back there with the band. And then they fired me right at the night of our first gig, and I had to come back from that. And then I moved to Maui, and I lived there, and I moved there. So eventually, I decided that I wanted to just pursue music as my full time purpose. And I
Mhm.
moved to Paris, and I lived in Paris for a year. And I think that's maybe where our conversation started. Was I was telling you about how I married myself before on the way there.
Mhm.
Is that what we were talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah.
I
So
didn't know
I
you
think,
married yourself on the way to Paris, but I know you got
yeah,
married to yourself, and I know you went to Paris. So that's another
yeah,
synchronicity that you described recently too. But so tell me about
yes.
that. Like, so what was the marrying yourself symbolizing to you?
To me, it was letting go of some old heartbreaks and some old ideas, and feeling of it was a sort of like a commitment to try to learn how to really love myself. Yeah.
Mhm.
And to say, okay, I've had I've had my heart broken in many ways. I feel very alone right now. I'm feeling like there's all this energy spinning inside me that I'm trying to direct into whatever's going to be the next phase of my life, but I don't know what it's going to be yet. And I just have to really like commit to like me to being with myself and to trusting my own voice and hearing my own voice. And I had an older friend, speaking of, elders that give you advice, and she had married herself when she was in her 40s. We had met in acting years before, and she had played my mom actually, and she told me about this ritual. So I felt like, all right, I was turning 25, I was leaving the country, I was leaving this, very intense 4 year experience, and I had also really been heartbroken by a guy who I had, my first love had kind of repositioned into my brain, and then it like that didn't work out, and it was like, okay, well, I have to, yeah, just make this really solid like declaration to myself of letting go of what's not working, what's not happening, and saying, okay, it's you and me, kid. so,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah,
and
I actually really love the symbolism around that because it feels like that's like a commitment that you made that you're not gonna, be looking for someone else to do it with you or for you or you're not going to listen to things that don't feel like true for you. You're just going to be like, no, no, it's going to be, me and me making these decisions and we'll decide whether it works out like for
yeah,
us,
yep, yep,
but I like
yep.
that idea about the union of yourself to really commit to like no more messing around, no more like getting into things that are gonna, distract you maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was going somewhere, I didn't speak the language, I didn't really know anybody, I didn't have more than a
Mhm.
very short runway lined up for myself in terms of, you know, money and safety and stuff. So I needed that too because it was quite an undertaking to move to a
Yeah.
foreign country by myself and just work it out.
Well, you really had to
And
trust. You really had to trust and you really had to kind of that saying like take the leap and hopefully the net will be there.
Here, yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
And was it? Was the net there?
I mean, eventually the net formed. I
Yeah.
mean, it's funny because I have this very clear memory of I basically lined up a bed in a hostel for the first. I had a month like paid for that I could land in this hostel, and when I got there, I was the first night I was just like got in bed and was like, what did I do? This is crazy. I don't understand anybody. I don't know anybody. I don't know what I'm doing here. This is crazy. And then I finally kind of kicked myself into gear and was like, okay, I'm just going to go for a walk. And I walked around, and Paris is like, walking around Paris is like nothing else. I mean, it just was so beautiful and old, and everything got me out of myself right away because it was so gorgeous. And I had this jean jacket that I did embroidery. I started doing that on the farm, and so it had little pictures I had embroidered all over the jean jacket, like a flower and a sun and a tree and a bird and whatever. And at some point, these dudes started following me. And in a sense, they were maybe a little creepy, like they were speaking to me in French, and I kept saying, "I don't know what you're saying." And then he pointed at like the sun on my jacket, and he was like, "Le sol," and I was like, "Oh, sun," And then we started like having this very broken conversation. He's like, "Le fleur," and I'm like, "Oh, flower," and he, for whatever reason, it made me realize like, okay, I'll figure it out. You know what I mean? It's just human beings here, and I'll figure it out. I can talk to this guy through my jacket, so I'm gonna be okay. And it just was a sort of like moment of reckoning to be like, all right, I'm gonna figure it out. And it
Yeah,
was
so the net
slow.
appear yeah, the net appears
Yeah.
because you start creating the net,
Right.
right? So
Yeah.
you start to be like, I have resources. I can do this. I can, keep going to the next thing and making connections, seeing where that leads.
Yeah.
Like this, like I think about that, the concept of synchronicity and that it's showing up right now because you're going back to Paris to play
Yeah.
after this is big, long,
20
lots of
years.
seeds being planted, and you're
Yeah.
back to the original place where you actually started out with the whole commitment to yourself and starting it off this real path of your music career.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
exciting. So exciting that you took
Yeah.
that. But then you also talked to me about like you when you took on this venture of traveling across country and then singing across the country wherever you could get an opportunity, that was also planting seeds and that you've been watching those seeds grow. And I love that concept because it also is about like planting your dream somewhere so that you can start seeing it blossoming and staying committed to
Yeah.
your dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, so this will be the ninth year that I go on my house concert tour all over the country. And yeah, I mean, I think as I do it each year, it's like the net kind of widens of where I go and who I meet. But it also feels really like there's this intimate quality to it because a lot of the same hosts will host every year.
Hmm.
And so I'm getting to know their network of friends and kids and people who come to the show every year, because most of my house concert hosts are not. It's not something they do regularly. I've found them somehow, some weird way we've connected, and they've decided to do it. And so it feels like this really kind of big, wide expanse of like people I'm getting to just know over the course of my travels. And then I see them again the next year when I come through, and they bring their friends and I meet their friends. And, it's like there's this guy who comes, I do one in Cincinnati every year, and there's this guy who comes every year, and he always brings me something fun for the road. He just loves it. And last year he came with this tiny little symbol that I could put in my air vent in the car so that when he's like, you can be driving down the road, you can be rocking your cymbal, you can hit your cymbal with a chopstick. And it's just like, I just love it. Like everyone gets their own little investment in it, and they're kind of a part of it too. And I feel like it's become just something I love everything that grows out of it, and
Yeah.
it's just very personal to me.
Yes, and also you don't know, like these connections have been, some of them have been 9 years long now.
Yeah,
And I just heard about you last year and I was like, wow, she's coming. Oh, wow. This is
yeah,
amazing. And just your quality of singing, you're obviously such a professional and because you've been on stage and performing so much. It's like so comfortable to be with you and watch you and you engage with the audience so well. So it's been nice for me to just be like, wow, that's really something, the connection that you are willing to make, like the commitment that you're willing to make to meet people where they are too and share your beautiful music with them. And what do you feel like has been some of the most amazing gifts you've gotten from the planting your seeds that are personal inside you and then also just like
yeah,
external, like things you never expected?
yeah. Um, well, I feel, let's see. I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot in the process as a performer. So there's just like so much in that alone. And one thing I would say that comes to mind is like there was a concert I did in Salt Lake City, house concert that I think it was the first year I was doing it at this house. And there was a decent crowd, and we were on a porch, a back porch. And so it was pretty crowded. And so people were right in my line of sight and right up on me and my keyboard. And there was a guy, a neighbor, who had come and he was in his, like, he had brought his camping chair and he was drinking his wine and he
Mhm.
looked miserable to me. And I thought, oh no, this guy got convinced to come by his neighbor and he hates it, and I couldn't help it because he was right in my line of sight. And even as a performer, you're playing and you're singing, but there's still a part of my brain that's scanning people and noticing and taking in information, seeing how it's landing and all that. And I thought he was really miserable. And it was towards the beginning of me doing this kind of performing. So I got a little more taken out of it. And I was like, oh no, what a bummer. And then afterwards, I was walking through the house and he met me in the hallway and he grabbed my hand and he put $100 bill in my hand. And
Oh,
he was like, I want you to have this. I think you're a really good songwriter. And I was just like, wow. And it just like, it taught me so much. I think about it all the time because it was like, I didn't know. I thought I could read the experience he was having, and I'm pretty good at reading people, but I didn't read it right. I didn't know. And I think that as a performer, I come back to a lot of like, ultimately, I just have to keep returning to myself, back to the beginning of the conversation, and try to express myself as truthfully and as emotionally and as connective as I can, and just trust that people are getting what they need out of it, and it's okay if it's not for everybody too, but like that it's not my job to try to judge them and their experience, or if they're liking it or they're not, or what they're getting out of it. That's for them to do.
right. Or to also, I think like that's so much like when you're a professional, like feeling like you might get feedback and you're trying to figure out like, is this good feedback or is this real feedback or is it about them or are they projecting
Sure.
something on me? And then you started to see yourself distracted by it. Like we get so distracted sometimes by feedback, not knowing like, is it our responsibility to take care of this person or maybe you have to like smile at him the whole time. Maybe you can just get him out of his shell or whatever, you know.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then you're like,
yeah.
I gotta stop. Part of you probably was surprised that he had an opposite effect of what you thought he was going to have. But also you had to let it go in order to just stay focused on what you were doing, right? Focus on yourself. So that's kind
Totally.
of amazing. And I think sometimes that does stop us. I mean, I know sometimes when it stops me, sort of negative feedback, or I thinking it's negative feedback that I'm getting.
Right.
And part of it is like, hey, whether I'm getting whatever feedback I'm getting, I still have to stay connected to what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's such a good lesson. Because I think part of all of the things that you've shared with me are like these great life lessons, that you're like, you've actually you talked about them in a little bit of a different way, but I think they're always there, that like how we make decisions, how we not get affected by society, how and what they think about us, or what they say we should and shouldn't do, and
Right.
stay committed to ourselves and stay distracted, like what is it, focused on what we're doing instead of distracted by again, judgment or thoughts of judgment.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
totally.
powerful. Hmm.
Yeah. And I just feel like yeah, I've gotten so many like gifts along the way of this process of those moments where someone is really moved and they
Hmm.
give something back to me in the way of, the money is kind of a side thing versus someone being like, that really moved me and made me think of this thing with my sister. And there's a lot of like intimate conversations that happen after I play at house concerts that feel it feels like a real gift to me to be able to have the loop experience of like, oh, I really love this thing, I love it so much. And it's been hard for me to lose the fear of, is this just like a self-involved mission? That's it's hard to not let that voice in sometimes, and I've dealt with that a lot over the years as a performer. But to get to have that experience of the regeneration of like, oh no, it's there's a reason I'm doing this, and there is a service element to it. It is an
Right.
act of
But there is
service
this
too.
reciprocity piece, right? Is like
Yeah.
it wouldn't work. Money isn't the whole piece. Of course, economically, we all need to make money or have our services like support us in some way, shape, or form. But if we don't get that energetic like exchange, then it's
Yeah.
really hard to keep doing it, and I'm sure you've been in performances where you're like, didn't get the energetic exchange.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you are like back to the drawing board, like, how do I not take that personally? Do you have those kinds of performances?
Sure. I don't really anymore in the like, I mean, for the most part, I would say there might be a portion of a performance where
Right.
maybe I let something, I let my head go in a way. But I do feel like I'm pretty good
Like you
at,
start judging yourself or something?
sure, yeah,
Yeah.
or yeah, something can go awry that way.
Mhm.
But I don't feel like I have, nothing feels wasted to me anymore in that way.
Yeah.
And I
All the
feel,
connections you make or all the energy you give out isn't wasted energy anymore.
right. I feel always
Mhm.
like it's going somewhere, it's doing something, and
Mhm.
I'm practicing. I'm practicing what I do, so there's
So
never,
tell me
that's
about
never a
like your
loss.
your practice. Is there like a deeper thing that you feel like you connect your practice to, your practice of performing or doing music? Is there a deeper kind of, I don't know, thought
I
pattern that
mean,
you have?
there is, but I don't know if I could put words to it. It's certainly not like a yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I
maybe
don't
it's
know.
intentional. Maybe it's an intentional thing. Like you have a,
Yeah, I mean, I have mental pictures that go along with that. I have, a whole pattern of like ways I'm trying to connect with myself before I perform, or things I'm thinking about, or ways I want to try to show up in a performance. But yeah, I don't,
well, I like those. Those are like you have a picture of how, of something. Like what would, like just to
yeah.
describe one of the pictures. You don't have to describe. I love it that you've got this creative mind. So that's how you do it. You're not doing it in words.
Right. Like I think I imagine myself like even physically opening up.
Ah,
And that provides some kind of connection. Like, and sometimes I'll do that. Like I'll before a show, if I have a backstage or a green room, I might like physicalize something and put my arms in the air and spread my legs wide and kind of make myself physically big and close my eyes and breathe and just try to feel like the connection that I have, that we're all connected, that I'm going to show up and be on stage in a spotlight, but that I'm trying to transcend something of normalcy in some way, you
yeah.
know.
I like that because there is something powerful about like even like taking up more space and then being really receptive to the space that you just walked into and
Yeah.
wanting it to open up a little bit more to let people know you're there with them and then feeling that they're there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something really powerful about that. And then having that, thought pattern before you go on stage and wishes for yourself maybe to have joy or to have fun or to have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I was really a huge Nina Simone fan growing up, and
Yes.
I got to see her live when I was 18. And for me, like, there was something she would transcend a lot. She was transcendent in a lot of ways,
Like you
and
felt
so
her energy change on stage or her change or
yeah, like
her change the audience.
she would, it felt like, and well, this is all over the map, and also she dealt with a lot of emotional and mental health stuff. But I think my impression and what inspired me beyond her piano playing and who she was and her voice was like I felt like she would enter a state when she was performing that was somewhat altered and somewhat holy, you know. And I'm not really a religious person per se, but there's something of that picture when I say I have pictures in my mind of what I'm trying to do. Like she is in that picture in my mind, is like, how can I kind of become a little bit more than myself in this state of performance.
Hmm. Yeah, I like that. Tell me one of the other things that you felt like has been remarkable on your journey of commitment to yourself and also just commitment to your dream.
Well, I will tell, this feels connected, so I'll tell you. So a lot of times I'm also just touching down in places I've never been and trying to cultivate connections there and start a new stop on my tour. And one of those places over the last years has been Marfa, Texas, which is this tiny little town in the middle of way, 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 way southern Texas. And it's got a lot of like kind of juju around it. There's a lot of artists and galleries there, but it's real out there. And there's this thing called the Marfa Lights that there's some people believe. Anyway, there's a whole thing about Marfa. So I was really wanted to go. I didn't know anyone, but I
Hmm.
ended up getting this little bar gig there. And I thought, all right, well, I'm just gonna, find myself a little room to rent. I ended up renting a tent at this place called El Cosmico. And I went to play in this little bar. And I showed up, and there was a tattoo artist there. It's kind of a long story, but to make it short, my night got pushed way later. By the time I played, there was very few people. I would say maybe 5 people in there. And I thought, all right, well, I wanted to come here. I'm here. I'm excited. These people are lovely. I'm gonna play my heart out for these 5 people, and that's it. I mean, I kind of let go of anything else. And I set up, and as I started playing, I was getting really into it. And all of a sudden, this group of like 10 guys walks in. And they were really like all different ages. And it was like, what is this group of 10 guys? Like, it was just very strange. And they sat in a line in front of me, and they just were like, they just listened to the whole rest of my show in this very intent, lovely way. And there's nobody in the bar. There's 15 people now, so I'm talking back and forth, and I'm asking them about who they are and what they're doing. And the guy said, who seemed to be sort of the leader of the group, he said, well, we're actually out here looking for creative inspiration. And he said, we live in Utah, and we have this project, and it's like kind of, we're building this like ski resort, but Marfa has all this mystique around it. So we came here for research, and we're out here looking for inspiration. And we heard your voice from, we were walking on the street, and we heard you singing, and we came in. And I was like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And at the end of my set, played probably for 70 minutes or 80 minutes or something. And I finished, and I started packing up. And that guy came up, and he looked at my case, and he said, is this where I can tip you if I scan the Venmo? And I said, yeah. And he scanned it, and I got back to my tent, and I thought, I bet he gave me $100 tip. I bet he was really generous. And I looked in my Venmo, and he had given me $1,000 tip. And I was like, wow! And it just like, it made my, that whole stop, it paid for my travel. But it was more so just the experience. Like, it was such a magical thing
Yeah.
to experience the like, okay, I got myself here. It is what it is. I'm going to
Yeah.
totally lay it out there and give my heart to it. And then to have that happen was just like, This is
No,
amazing.
that's a magical moment. It's also that synchronicity thing again about like you were open to it. You were like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
whatever happens, I'm good with whatever happens. I
Mm-hmm.
made a decision. I'm here. And
Yep.
you just let yourself have whether it was 5 people, now it was 15 people, and
Yep.
then it was $1,000. Like it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, thank you very much. I got something. Wow, that was a nice return. Not that it was money at all. It was like a really great energetic return. Excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure
Yeah.
you've had like all sorts of nice things like this on the way that have been, just give you more hope to keep going, or you watch
Yeah.
your seeds blooming and you're like, oh, this year a bigger crowd showed up at this person's place and I love this person and they actually are spreading the word and it's just
Totally.
I just think it's just inspirational to hear about when we start being very intentional about making connections with people, then we make more and more connections with people and we get to kind of, learn a lot along the way about ourselves and people and how we're giving and how we're
Yeah.
taking care of ourselves. All of that, I'm sure, are the lessons of the day, right? Like how are you going to take care of yourself? How are you going to give? Maybe
Yeah.
you're tired of traveling. How are you going to deal with that? Like, there's a lot of other life things that come into play, but that you've stayed really committed to that and watched all the opportunities that have grown. Like you're going back to Paris and
Yeah.
playing again, and that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I just am inspired by you a lot and the mission
Oh,
that you're on. It's like just the way you talk about it and the way that you've been really committed to it. It's impressive. So I really
thank you.
am happy that you shared your story here.
Thank you. I'm so glad we connected. And even the way we connected was kind of felt that
Yeah.
way. Of been like you came to a show of mine
Yep.
in Berkeley and we're like, "Wait, I have this place in Massachusetts. Are you going to come there?" And I was like, "Yes, I can come there." So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a magical night, and I'm glad that you're going to be coming back there. It'll be also really nice to see how it
Yeah.
grows from one year to the next. So that's also neat.
Mhm.
Well, it's that kind of thing I think that gives hope to people, to see, to hear people doing things that are taking a risk, that are being true to yourself, or continuing to learn along the way. It's not just like a one-shot deal, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's an
totally.
ongoing being on the path.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, thanks for dropping by my podcast.
Yes, thanks for having me. This is
Yes, and I'll see
lovely.
you on the concert that we're going to be having in Berkeley, which will be exciting. So that
Yes.
will be another opportunity for us to connect. So thank you for just continuing to be so open
Yeah,
to
my
my world
pleasure.
and to sharing in my world. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate I appreciate talking with you. It's really lovely. Yeah.
All right. Well, have a good evening and we'll connect sometime soon.
All right. Bye.